Hello and welcome back to the Black Techies podcast, where Black culture meets the world of technology. I'm your host, David. Follow me on Twitter at JustProcessYT and follow the Black Techies at the Black Techies. As always, you can basically follow us and subscribe to us anywhere. YouTube, of course, if you're watching this. Google Play, Apple Podcasts, just really anywhere. Just Google us. You'll find us. Yeah, welcome back. And as you can tell by the title, we're kind of late to the party, but we kind of wanted to get our reactions to the Xbox Games Showcase, and I kind of talk about the Note 20. But before we do that, fellas, Mr. Herb, Mr. Dominique, how you all doing out there?
Here.
Yeah. You
all heard Mr. 45 signed that executive order
that he can't do anything with.
Yeah, thank you. I'm still not voting for you, dude.
It was a cool gesture that should have been done way earlier than he did it, but it's from what my understanding of it is, it's not an executive order. Like, essentially, you can't, without additional legislation and additional funding, the executive branch can't spend money that the congressional branch did not approve, and so he can just redirect funds that have already been approved through executive order. But that's just taking money from some other pot to put it in this pot. And also, more than that, he's talking about half or a percentage of the unemployment benefits being paid by the state. But as we all know, states are not allowed, according to the Constitution, states are not allowed to run at a deficit. And so until they pass legislation allowing states to run at a deficit like the federal government can, states simply just cannot pay it. Most states cannot pay it.
Is that really in the Constitution? Man, I need to read.
Maybe not Constitution. Maybe I can't tell. I don't know what document it is, but it's ironclad.
I know some states have it in their constitutions that they're not allowed to run a deficit.
No,
like they have to have a balanced budget. Like I think Texas and a few other places have that.
Yeah, that's a federal rule. I don't know how it is, but I just know from what I've been reading, a lot of states are asking for permission to either file bankruptcy or run at a deficit.
Well, I mean, we're already like $22 trillion in debt. I'm not really. That's the conservative in me coming out. I'm not really
made up money, right? We find the money to finance wars whenever we need to, right? We find that money becomes immediately available. And so right now, when people need it, what it feels like conservatives mostly are okay with is financing wars, but not necessarily financing poor people. And it is not. That's not tenable to me. Like to ask me to be okay with you pulling the money from the coffers whenever we jump into any stupid. We spend so much money on military readiness, but then like right now, we ask these people to stay home. We say, hey, we're only going to get through this if you guys stay home. Businesses in Nashville, I don't know how it is where you guys are, but businesses in Nashville can't stay open past 10 and they have to run at half capacity. So that's not we're asking you to make considerably less money or no money at all. That money you have to make people whole. And so far, the only people that are being made whole are people that didn't need to be made whole. They're rich people that were going to be okay regardless. You could have said, you guys aren't allowed to make another dollar from March 1st until this is over. You rich people don't get to make another dollar. I'm sorry. We could have told them that. As a country, we can say, hey, sorry, right? We're going to tax you at 90%.
But this isn't a political podcast, so
it's not. It's a tech podcast.
but you know, I mean, it's what's happening, and it affects us. So you know, it's gonna bleed over into our podcast eventually. But glad to see, at least to see you all doing well. You know, now that irregardless is a word now, irregardless of the circumstance. But all right, so Xbox Showcase. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, well, before we
I didn't even see what's
transition into our topics. Shout out to Morris Brown College. Those guys have joined Johnson C. Smith, the MEAC, and the SWAC to a lesser extent. Saw that, Dave. They have taken the the leap to start their own esports curriculum and program, in addition to the aforementioned schools that I just specified. So, welcome to the esports club, and the more schools that join, the bigger the footprint we're going to have in the industry, and this is a really good start. It's a really good start. So.
There's some allergies over here. If you all remember, we had a discussion with Professor John Cass from Johnson C. Smith University. Go check that out if you haven't. Part 1 and Part 2, where we talked about HBCUs and esports, and we talked about how there are a lot more schools getting in and into esports, and we're happy to see, especially Morris Brown. Like, I'm from Atlanta, so like that's pride. I feel just a bit of pride right there from a native Atlanta school coming back from the dead, really. And also as a band head, those Morris Brown battles, those were great. uh but yeah, so if you haven't already, go ahead and check out those two videos where we kind of delve more into esports, and we plan on really being as supportive as we can. I mean, we plan on trying to make a database of like all of the schools that are doing esports, and maybe even uh, maybe with a few sponsors. Hint, hint. Maybe we can sponsor a few esports tournaments. I would love to say that the Black Techies are sponsoring an HBCU esports tournament. Oh, that would be great. But so let's crawl, walk, run, right? And so let's but yeah, I think that's definitely something that is going to be ramping up in the coming years. So um speaking of games, however, uh the Xbox showcase. Did you all watch it? Or did you at least see some of it?
Caught the highlights.
Yeah, I caught some of the highlights myself. More specifically, Halo Infinite and some of the Forza stuff and some other things that caught my eye, but mostly Halo Infinite. And for anybody that's ever been a fan of the franchise, seeing it return, seeing that it's going to make its return to the next gen platform is exciting. At least despite some of the advanced criticism that the release has already gotten prior to even being released yet, or us seeing any other betas, Halo carries a degree of prestige with it because I mean, real talk is one of the most successful video game franchises there's been. Um, you say Halo and you automatically think of Microsoft when it comes to games. So, it's going to be interesting to me to see how, what's different in terms of their gameplay and what direction the developers went in terms of making Halo Infinite something that's completely different than other predecessors in the series. So that's the one that I was really excited for. Now, in terms of just pretty games, Forza Motorsport is always pretty. The Forza franchise in general is pretty. Gameplay, but I mean, if you want a really really good looking video game on an Xbox platform, Forza's it. And it's every iteration I've seen of the game has looked absolutely awesome, and this was no different in terms of what I saw. So those are the two that stood out to me. There are some other games that were ported over that are pretty interesting. Hold on for just a second.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, while we do that, Dominique, did you? I know you're an Xbox guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, did you see anything that you kind of liked?
So out of the trailers I've watched, uh, of course Halo. I'm such a Halo fan. It's not even funny. Like I read the books. Like I'm that guy. Halo to me is what a lot of Star Trek guys are with the lore. Like I kind of Herb is like that with Star Trek. I'm like that with Halo. I love the universe. You can write me a story about the the last child born on a planet that isn't featured on any video game, and I'll read that story. Right? Like there's a lot of really like robust lore that it really still hasn't even been tapped into. But what has been tapped into, I've loved it. The So of course Halo Infinite, but going outside the box, the game Everwild, it's
Oh yeah.
from Rares, and it looks. I mean, first of all, sister with natural hair as seemingly one of the protagonists. We don't know that much about the game, but we do know there's a what looks to be some Middle Eastern kind of guy with dreadlocks and a sister with natural curls as people that are important to this game. I have no idea what it's about. It just looks stunning, right? It really looks good. That and Avowed, the
Yeah,
game
I
from
was gonna say about
Obsidian.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's like basically like kind of like a Elder Scrolls reset. Not exactly, but like the people who made Elder Scrolls, we're getting a game on new hardware, hopefully without all the bugs. But I ain't gonna lie, man, I'm still playing Skyrim to this day. So um, it's one of the best games of all time. So um,
Well,
bugs and all. So there's a couple things I got my eye on. I'm excited for I kind of stopped playing Xbox console. I still play Xbox games, but I play them on my PC, and I expect that to
Same here.
continue to as long as Xbox Ultimate Pass is a thing. But I will be buying an Xbox Series X, and I hate that I have to say that because that's a silly, stupid name. But I will be buying an Xbox Series X and getting getting most of these games, as long as there's still games everywhere, Xbox or Microsoft Anywhere games or whatever they call them, where you can buy it
Xbox
and
Play
play it on
Anywhere.
both. Yeah, as long as it's that, I'll probably be copping a lot of these games because they look really good.
well, I think there was one other game that I saw for the platform that wasn't necessarily a part of the showcase, but it was, pretty much part of EA's just kind of sneak peek to FIFA 2021.
Yeah,
And
I know you're a big FIFA
yeah,
fan.
FIFA. Yeah, anybody that knows me, I play FIFA religiously, and um, FIFA 21 looks like it could very well be the best in the series in terms of some of the play mechanics that they're talking about changing. 2020 was a little bit hard to get used to in terms of play because some of the dribbling and defensive mechanics were, if you're a beginner, they're kind of hard to pick up on. But for pros, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see what 2021 looks like in terms of that platform. Um, but I think the other thing that was very interesting that I saw from the actual showcase was Crossfire X being,
Oh yeah, I'm
yeah,
kind of interested in that.
yeah,
What it didn't already come out like just Crossfire on
mhm.
PC and now it's a new one Crossfire X.
Yeah, and it's yeah, Crossfire. The Crossfire series on PC has always been free.
Mm,
The catch is that people in the United States haven't really had a chance to play it. It's
yeah.
one of the most popular titles outside of the continental United States and the Americas there is in terms of first-person shooters. Um, and I mean, go to South Korea, go to Asia, go to some other places, and folks are Crossfire X has the same footprint as Call of Duty does here, and it's really exciting to see it on the Xbox platform or an American platform in general because I don't think a lot of people realize how popular those types of first person shooters are, outside of, this market. Simply because, if you're not talking about Call of Duty or Halo or any number of the first person shooters where there's a lot of American familiarity with, um, you're going to get crickets from American audiences. And the fact that this is finally making its debut here on a console is great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be I think I might check it out. Uh so I think I mean I know they had let's see, I know I'm kind of scrolling through it now. Uh Psychonauts 2, Tell Me Why. Uh
Psychonauts 2 is gonna be a banger,
yeah.
banger.
I love the first one. It was pretty quirky. Fable. How you can't forget about Fable? That was the last
Yeah,
game they announced. Did you all see the trailer for Fable?
yeah. I didn't want to name all the.
Yeah,
Of
kind of.
course, we're gonna get those, or of course, that's a big deal.
Hmm.
Games, but yeah, Fable. Like I played all the other three, and I'm a fan. I've always been a fan, and I didn't see anything that jumped out to me as like, oh my god, it's like Fables are good. Fable or is good games, and I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna play it.
I mean, they didn't really show anything
Anything,
outside
yeah.
of like the
None of the
trailer. It was
trailers did
funny though.
really.
That
Like
trailer was
none of the
hilarious.
trailers were none of the yeah it was, but none of the trailers were like revealing of anything special from a gameplay perspective. But I have such high hopes for graphics, and some games could really use the graphical overall. Like Warhammer has a game coming out that
Oh yeah,
reminds me of like Left 4 Dead, like a 4 player, basically Call of Duty Zombies or Left 4 Dead kind of game,
right.
and I'm here for it.
I played the crap out of the first Left 4 Dead when it came out on the 360. Oh
Yeah.
man, that was one of the funnest games I've ever played. So I mean, yeah, there was a bunch of other games. The Medium that looked kind of scary. Um, but all right. So the game that obviously got the most attention, and as you all probably already found out, was Halo Infinite, right? I mean, obviously
Hmm.
that's Microsoft's tentpole
Right.
series, and like Xbox kind of rises or falls by Halo. Um,
Halo
and
and
like,
Gears of War.
right, well, yeah, that in Gears, right? So, but when it came out, there was varying opinions on the graphics of Halo
It's like
Infinite,
it's
and
like
so I will say, hold on. I will say there is a 4K 60 frames per second version of the gameplay out there. So just go on Microsoft's YouTube page and you'll find it. But if you were wondering about the resolution, that it will be 4K 60. So at the very least, but the thing that people had a lot of issues with were like the texture quality, the lighting, and it just didn't seem next gen for some people. If you're going to tout the Xbox Series X as the most powerful console ever, then a lot of people felt that the game should reflect that. And when we saw Hellblade, the new Hellblade, when they revealed it last December, that looked great. When that came out, I was like, oh man, that's how graphics are gonna look like. Man, I need to I need to upgrade my PC. But but it didn't look like Hellblade. So me personally, I thought it was more so the art style. So it looked like they were trying to harken back to the original Halo, but other people disagree with me on that. So I kind of want to get you all's. Or rather, I didn't think it was all graphical fidelity. I thought part of it was the art style, but maybe some of the texture work could be fixed or
This
whatever.
is
But
one of the ones
yeah, let
where
me get let me get
my
let me get you all's
fanboy.
opinion on this.
This one of the ones where my fanboyness is going to stop me from having anything bad to say about it. I don't even see it through like kind of like I when I'm such a Marvel fanboy that I never walked out of a Marvel movie saying that movie wasn't amazing, even though after more deliberation down the line, you're like, maybe you know maybe movie X. I'm not gonna name no names because I don't want to start no mess in the comments. But maybe that movie wasn't. Maybe Doctor Strange wasn't amazing, right? But when I walked out of there, it was amazing. So the same thing happened when I was watching the trailer. I was watching it like, oh my god, a new Halo. I heard about it, but I get to see it with my own eyes, and oh my god, this is amazing. I had those kinds of feelings. I wasn't even able to be critical of it yet.
eh, um, eh. I'm just gonna say this, man. If you're gonna tout, your flagship game, okay, as a next gen killer on a console that you spent the last 5 years building up to, there shouldn't be questions about art style or texture or anything like that. It should the first the first glimpse of that game should blow viewers away. Like with Hellblade, for example. People looked at that game on next gen console and was like, wow, okay, I'm excited to see this game, even if I don't know anything about it. Now, from the cinema trailer that we got from it, and as compared to some of the gameplay that we saw, it was just like, okay. I can see why a lot of folks are a little bit, petro about it because it's like, damn, bro, this ain't this on the next gen platform. I look like I'm playing, Xbox S or something that was upscale, and that's, unfortunately, even though that may have been a proof of concept or whatever, that's one of the inherent risks that these developers run by putting, rushing things to market and putting it out for people to see, before the finished product. Now, the finished product will probably look just as awesome as we think it's going to look. Because we know Microsoft is not going to let anything hit that platform to utilize that hardware that's going to be trash, especially Halo. But people having questions about it after the reveal, yeah, I can see where that angst came from, because even for a reveal, which is or a glimpse into what the game is going to offer, that glimpse should inspire all sorts of really great vibes about the platform. And what Halo is, in my opinion, it really didn't meet up to that. Now, that's not to say that once we hear about Halo Infinite again hitting the platforms, we start seeing more visions of gameplay on the architecture. It's going to be ridiculous. I have no doubt about that. But in terms of first impressions, they could have did a little bit better than that. That's just my opinion. That's not saying that it's that it's trash or anything like that. It's far from it. And that Halo itself has been so good for so long that it set a standard that it almost can't really attain or sustain. And that's part of it too, because again, people think of Halo and they think of the flagship platform game for Xbox.
So I remember so if you all know anything about Digital Foundry, they're a well-known uh, outlet, a sub outlet of Eurogamer, and they basically do a bunch of deep dives into graphics and all of that stuff. And so they took, of course, they broke down the trailer or the gameplay, and their thing was the lighting is partially to blame. It used, I think, dynamic lighting and not like the baked lighting that you would see in a game like The Last of Us, where the lighting is set so you're able to create a certain ambiance depending on where the player goes. But if I think Halo Infinite is supposed to have like a day-night cycle, so the lighting is always fluctuating and changing. But the way they implemented it, at least, admittedly, they did say it was an old build, but um, it didn't necessarily make the game as flattering as it could be. Like the detail for the character models are there, but the lighting didn't bring it out, and so that's partially what made it not look as good as it should. That said, I think you have a point. This is like Halo is akin to like the Uncharted series for PS4, right? For PlayStation. It's like when you think of that game, you think of the system or you think of the company. And they're not gonna let something as prized as Halo come out the gate looking all shabby. So I would imagine that 343 uh Industries, I think that's the name of it, they're gonna, tighten it up and by the time it comes out, I'm pretty sure it'll look pretty good. That said, I think Halo Infinite isn't. I don't think it's a. I think it's more of a. It's open world, isn't it? Like an open world. I
That's what
don't.
it
I don't.
seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like.
I don't think they're gonna do traditional sequels for Halo. I think they're just gonna keep iterating on Halo Infinite, kind of like Destiny. So like there isn't gonna be a Destiny 3. They're just gonna stay with Destiny 2 and then just keep adding content and then
Yeah.
like putting the old content in a vault per se. So I think that's what Halo Infinite is going to be like. Maybe I don't know for sure. They still haven't given like all the details about Halo Infinite, but yeah. uh it'll be
But there
interesting
is
to
a
see how they.
campaign, so it's got to be different than Destiny because they're talking about their campaign as
Yeah.
one of their key points. So
Because that's why
yeah,
a lot of people play. I mean, that's Halo. I mean, yeah, a lot of people play Halo for the multiplayer, but a lot of people also play Halo for the single
the
player.
story. Yeah,
Right.
I
And
need to know what's happening with Master Chief. I need to know.
right. And the pilot or whatever the guy that's accompanying him.
Yeah.
So but let me go ahead and so I was going to kind of bring up the so the kind of the next part of our show here is going to be about the Note 20. But I think a more interesting conversation, kind of sticking with gaming today, is about Apple and Microsoft. And I kind of want to say, I kind of
AKA
want
the Hatfields and McCoys.
basically, I mean, so if so, just some context. So everyone knows, Microsoft has Project xCloud and Google has Stadia, right? Those are cloud gaming platforms. However, Apple isn't allowing Google Stadia or Shadow or Microsoft to put xCloud on any iOS device because they so Apple claims that because they're not able to vet all of the games that are on the service, they can't promise a I don't know, they can't they don't feel comfortable doing that. But then obviously the rebuttal is that you got Amazon Prime on there, you got Netflix on there, you got Hulu on there. You have all of these streaming video services that clearly Apple can't just, look at each of those shows and rate each of those. So that I call it BS on that. Apple's clearly trying to, in my opinion, I think they're trying to protect their Apple Arcade revenue. They want people to subscribe to Apple Arcade. But I kind of wanted to get you all's opinion on this, and because I think I'm coming down with a cold. I think
Rona.
they're no. These are actually no. I think it's allergies actually. Um,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
no, I no. I wear a mask every day. I wear my mask.
But you said you was a conservative. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, no, actually,
Mask are
don't
political.
let me with the other
You're not
the
going to a
other folks.
rally, is what you're saying. That's what
No,
you're not
no.
doing? Okay.
We know Dave got good sense.
But I think this is key for the expansion of cloud gaming in general because in the United States at least, like I almost half the population of the US has iPhone. So I think that and being able to expand cloud gaming in the US is going to be hindered if they can't put it on iOS devices. So I want to start with Dominique because I know you're an iPhone guy, so I kind of want to get your opinion on this, especially if you've heard it. I don't know if you've kind of
I have
kept up
not.
with it.
I
I
have
know
not.
it's been a lot of news has been coming out.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with it, but just based on what you said, it sounds plausible. And if part of your theory is Apple's trying to keep some money in their pockets, I agree.
Mhm.
Whatever you're saying, I agree. That's what they do. They're like actively on a quest to dominate the market and make sure that you don't anything that you put on this here phone, brother, got to come through us. And I need my cuts. Okay, you wanna get Netflix? Get it through my store, please. I need my cuts. And Netflix is like, hey, listen, you sign up with us, you sign up on this website. And people like Netflix are strong enough. I know I just went on tangent like a mug, but I'm going somewhere. People like, Netflix are strong enough to say, we'll take our app off your store altogether, or you gonna let people sign up the way we want to. But when we put the Black Techie streaming platform out called Blackulous, when we put that out, we gonna put that out, and then we can't tell Apple what we gonna do. Apple gonna tell us what we gonna do, and they gonna say, listen, make them sign up through the store through subscriptions, give us 30%. So we gonna tell y'all $10 a month, and y'all gonna do it because y'all supporting black businesses. But we only gonna get 7 of them $10 because Apple need 3 of every one of your dollars before. So that's my I completely believe that Apple is about keeping money in their own coffers. Yes.
Herb, did you have any thoughts as the resident cloud gaming guru?
Man, this is what I see. I see Apple making an investment in Apple Arcade, playing the long game, hoping that cloud services really, we're going to kind of progress at a snail's pace. And they got the opposite. And essentially, what's happening is that Apple is looking at their competition and the fact that their competition can leverage their platform, to pretty much say, okay, well, what's the point of having Apple Arcade if I can play xCloud or GeForce Now or any cloud platform, you know, on iOS. They're Petro. That's what it boils down to. It's like, okay, we're looking at Apple Arcade not really making us any money. If this comes to pass, if we can have these clients that are outside the Apple ecosystem being able to do those things in our ecosystem, and it's freaking Apple out. Those guys like, man, we ain't gonna make no money off of this. We finna die. That's exactly what it boils down to, and that's why they're. I don't buy the excuse of that they gave.
No one does.
Yeah,
Like so,
this
so
is
in fact, here's their statement verbatim. They were like, "All right, quote." Our customers enjoy great apps and games from millions of developers, and gaming services can absolutely launch on the App Store as long as they follow the same set of guidelines applicable to all developers, including submitting games individually for review and appearing in charts and search. And then Microsoft is like, nope. They're like, quote, Apple stands alone as the only general purpose platform to deny consumers from cloud gaming and game subscription service like Xbox Game Pass. Unfortunately, we do not have a path to bring our vision of cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to gamers on iOS via the Apple App Store. So yeah, basically,
yeah,
Microsoft is pushing back against this, obviously, because this expands Microsoft's uh, Xbox platform to the cloud, where basically any screen becomes an Xbox essentially. But I think we talked about this on a previous episode where about streaming services, how everyone wants a streaming service, everyone wants that recurring revenue model from subscriptions, right? And so that's where Apple is going, that's where Microsoft is going. So when they kind of butt heads, right now it's like, but Apple controls the platform. So it's nothing Microsoft or anyone can really do unless the government gets involved and tells them they're going to have to allow it.
yeah.
I think the government's gonna get involved. It's it's there's no reason for them other than like the issue I have with Apple and other big companies is like, what are you? Are you a services provider? Are you a hardware provider? Like, what do you do? You can't do everything, and if you're gonna do everything, like there's a different set of rules that need to apply. Like antitrust stuff was made back before technology was a thing, where so it wasn't formed for these kind of gigantic mega companies. But we got to do something. I know it's kind of anti. I don't know, capitalism, which I'm fine with being labeled as an anti-capitalist, but it's anti something. But we gotta stop there, because otherwise, right now, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and basically all the CEOs, Facebook slash Instagram slash WhatsApp, those 5 or 6 companies can literally just buy every other company. They don't do it because the other companies aren't as profitable. But what's stopping Facebook from just buying Uber? Like they could buy them. They could buy Uber, and then that's another gigantic tech company. And then Amazon could buy like Yum Foods. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Amazon buying Yum Foods, and then like at what point do we say, hey man, you got enough? We can't let all of this be run by Jeff Bezos. We can't let all of the power and all of the money get siphoned up to one dude, especially when all of these dudes are. There's no such thing as an ethical billionaire, right? You gotta capitalism requires somebody to lose, and so unfortunately, the people that are losing with these companies are the bodies of poor Asian people, poor African people, whoever's mining is the boron needed and all the different rare minerals needed, rare materials needed to make microprocessors and all the stuff that's needed for all of this stuff to work. Their bodies are, they're not, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the reason that stuff's being done by those people is because I can pay them $3 a month as opposed to the $30 an hour I'd have to pay an American to do it, right? And so eventually, like, it's gonna get to a point where we're gonna run into we're already there pretty much. Globalization and the over saturation of these few companies at the top is causing there's just a huge economic disparity that I see it, and it's like people aren't seeing it. They're doing a very good job of like covering our face, and like I think Trump does a really good job of like, hey, look, I'm a monkey, and like he's okay with being the monkey, and we're just not paying attention. To be fair, this started happening way before Trump, but it's happening, and it's happening at such an exponential, the same curve that technology is ramping up. The ownership of that technology is ramping up, and we're gonna get to a point where there's just 5 companies, and then they're what do we do, right? They're too powerful. There was a point in time earlier on in American history where all of the wealth was held by like 4 families, right? Like 90% of the world's wealth really was held by like 4 or 5 families, and we had to do something to stop that, and we're gonna have to do something to stop this too. Otherwise, anarchy, chaos. We're gonna have to go take it with physical force.
Yeah, I heard it. Y'all heard it here. Apple is going to cause the destruction of the world as we know it. No.
Real quick before we continue on, I wanted to give you guys give our audience there a heads up that sometime down the road this year, before the year's out, we're going to be doing a kids episode of the Black Techies. And I mention this since my daughter has seen fit to photobomb me multiple times during this interview. Come here, Kendall.
I know it looks kind of weird with the Alabama State background.
And she just appeared a second ago. She's like, all right.
Say hello.
Just magic.
Okay,
hey, Kendall.
Just a heads up for our folks that are watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. We will be doing a kids episode. So if you got kids, if you have suggestions for topics, yes, you can go back. Thank you for photographing. We can go. I mean, just stay tuned, and we will be developing. Have a kids panel where we'll let our children or kids or whomever is on the panel that are kids kind of go at it and talk about technology in their terms and in their way.
Let me also interject here. Like, all 3 of us are fathers, and I don't care what anyone says. Don't read any articles. Don't read anything that says that Black fathers aren't doing anything, that they're absent, that they're like, nah. You see us, we're doing our thing, and there's millions of other Black men out there that are taking care of business. So don't believe the stereotype. Black fathers exist. Hashtag. But
Actually, to that note, at a higher rate than almost every other subset of people, according to a study done by a reputable, peer-reviewed search that I don't have on my hand right now, but I can put it in the collective. We be out here fathering.
Hey, just send it to us on Facebook. I'll put it in the show notes and then in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description. It'll probably be there.
Also, while we're talking about social media, kind of, that last post you put up about the Google algorithm, and if you Google white American doctor, whoever you're doing, stop what you're doing right now and just go Google white American doctor and just get ready to give yourself a good old. It's not laugh out loud funny, but it's a you just gotta just give yourself a little chuckle because it is funny to me.
Either someone did a really good job of hacking the algorithm, or someone at Google's plan is having a laugh right now.
Big facts.
Well, I think
back to your regularly scheduled. Oh no, go ahead.
Hold that Like I said, like Dave said, the jobs of black fathers are never done.
Never. I'm halfway surprised my daughter isn't coming in the room asking for a hug right now or to tell me good night because it's past her bedtime.
Yeah.
but yeah, so
You got bedtime
as
on Saturday?
Yep.
yeah, I mean they have stay up all night. Shoot, I stay up all night, but but yeah, it's usually around like 10 o'clock on the weekends and 9 o'clock on school nights.
Weekdays, yeah. All right, so you going to school physically, or are y'all doing virtual?
Yeah, there's a choice for us.
Yeah.
You can if you don't feel comfortable going in, you can just Zoom. If you
Yeah.
do feel comfortable, you can do it in person, but obviously they're gonna have all the you got to wear a mask. You can't use lockers and all that. You know that picture they showed of Paulding County in
Georgia?
Georgia? No,
Yeah.
you're not gonna see that see that at after school.
Yeah.
But because they can't use lockers and you have to uh it's a whole bunch of restrictions they're gonna have. So
I,
yeah.
I live in the state of Maryland. PG County ain't playing that. Everybody at home. Everybody got Chromebooks. Everybody's doing virtual, and they ain't. And I mean, our shout out to our Republican governor, Governor Hogan, because he ain't playing either. And that dude is, and just to kind of put this in perspective for folks that are listening, um, this guy has been one of the more forward thinking and actually tech savvy guys when it comes to this um, COVID 19 pandemic in terms of how he's used and leveraged technology to facilitate, you know, a standard of safety for his state um, that you really don't see in a lot of places, or really haven't seen in a lot of places. Conversely, you can talk about Georgia, or any place. Well, how about just any place south of South Carolina? Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
And I
well,
mean,
really just Georgia and Florida, because Tennessee's actually got some sense
yeah,
so far that I've seen. Even rural areas of Tennessee are moving with caution, and there's seems to be true effort being put behind making sure the kids are safe. So, my friends, my best friend, my godchildren, they're going to school physically, but they have some really good guidelines and procedures put in place to make sure that they're not they're limiting exposure, right? We're mitigating risk. We can't remove risk, but we're mitigating risk. The kids don't move once they get into their desk. They don't move except to go to lunch. They sit in the same seat every day. There's blocks on the floor to keep them 6 feet apart, right? So you don't move from your block until the next block is free. The teachers rotate throughout the class, not the students, right? And so it's like when it's time for the art teacher to come in, the art teacher comes in to the room, and then they leave, and your main teacher comes in, and blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And so less than 10 kids a class. Now this, to be fair, my friend's doing all right for himself. He's in a nice area that's able. I can't speak to what the inner city kids are doing. I don't have any friends that are inner city people with inner city kids that don't have their kids at home. So I don't know what the pearl cones of the world are doing. I say that like everybody gonna know what pearl cone is, but
Yeah, so like I know what pearl cone is,
yeah,
but obviously, all
I know
right.
Dave know what pearl
I
cone is,
know.
right? But take away pearl cone, insert East Side High or whatever your
yeah,
whatever your local
plug and play.
ratchet school is, wherever the Jamarians of your city are attending. That's the school I'm talking about. I don't know what they're doing, right? Because I know they were facing overcrowding issues before. Um, so I don't know what Jamarion and Sharisha are doing, but hopefully they able to stay home. It sucks because it's real. This whole everything about this thing sucks because it's just blatant how the disparity is affecting people of color and people of like the people that are in the lower class. Like I hate saying lower class, but lower income families are being put in this bind. Is because if I'm somebody without a college degree, but I want to improve my child's station, I know that they have to go to school to have a shot at going to college, which is the single most identifiable factor to move somebody from a lower income to a middle income or higher. That's the single most important identifiable thing that you can do to change your station in life, right? So I know that they gotta go. I have to stay at home to make sure that they go to school, or I have to go to work and hope that they're mature. Not to mention, if I got a 4 or 5 year old that definitely can't navigate this e-learning thing on their own, right? You can't leave a 4 or 5 year old at home alone, regardless, right? So you got to stay at home, or you got to pay somebody to stay at home with them. And that's just we don't pay people enough. We don't pay KFC workers enough to pay somebody to be at home with their 4 year old while they're learning. But then we're asking that KFC worker, who we need, by the way, because we need KFC. We're asking that worker to basically choose your kid's life or rent and food. We're asking them to do that, and we know that we're asking them to do it, and nobody's doing anything about it.
And I mean, I'll be, quite honest. I know we got to wrap up soon because I know a couple of us have a hard stop. But to piggyback on what Dominique just laid out, if there's anything that has illustrated the disparity and between, not just in terms of economic disparity between certain demographics of people, but the technology disparity between certain groups and demographics of people. COVID has exposed that in a big way, and it's not just schools. It's how people interact on a daily basis at work, how people interact on a daily basis, technology in general. I mean, you've got folks that ordinarily wouldn't be worried about a Zoom or a Skype, session, learning Skype and Zoom on the fly. Wouldn't ordinarily worried about, what Blackboard is, having to, do remote learning modules for their jobs where they didn't have to. It's a very sobering thing to see how this is kind of played out during the pandemic, particularly for Black folks. For us, particularly myself and Dave, we're our careers are in information technology, so we're blessed in a way because we really haven't had a stoppage in work or anything like that in the region where we work in. But that's not necessarily the case for everybody. And, we're also in a profession where, we don't, if we really didn't need one, we wouldn't need a degree. Certification, in certain industry, in certain, disciplines is like platinum.
Yeah, you don't really need a computer science degree to do IT work.
Exactly. So I mean,
not at all.
It's something that one of the purposes of this podcast, is to kind of bring those things to light. In addition to encouraging, those of us that are in, our niche, to pursue technology for this very reason. To not just to make a better life for yourself or for your family, but to communicate the importance of having access to the technology and resource, for Black folk in general, because in situations and times like these is where it's imperative. It's in some cases is a life and death type of deal, because you might have a family that's in a food desert and may not necessarily be able to go out and get groceries or be able to go out and get specific things without ordering, or utilizing technology to bring those groceries to them.
It's kind of it's somewhat layered on that. Actually, after this, I'll hand it over to Dominique and we can close out. But it's somewhat layered because it's not like on top of that, you still have people in rural areas who don't have the best internet. Imagine doing a Zoom call over satellite internet, right? Like who does that? So like there are still people who don't have reliable internet, and you want to talk about doing virtual learning or virtual learn what am I doing? Working from home and stuff.
Right.
Like not everyone can do all that stuff. So ironically, it's not even just black people who are affected by this, but like white people or anyone who's living in an area that doesn't have proper access to broadband, which is another aspect, another layer, right? There's ISPs have their monopolies on certain places, and you can't choose a different ISP that has better service. But that's a different thing. Uh, but yeah, so it's kind of messed up all around, and hopefully we can kind of expound on those ideas on a future episode because I think that's still worth talking about because there's still a lot of things we can really kind of go through on that. But with that said, like Herb said, a few of us have a kind of a hard stop on this. So Dominique, if you wouldn't mind closing us out, we can go ahead and let the people go.
Good people. I hope everybody goes forth, has a great week. Do something nice for somebody if you're able to. There's a lot of people in need. Food lines are crazy. Unemployment went down a little bit, but it's still crazy. Right, going from 14% to 10% is not nothing, and should be lauded. Whoever it is that is creating these jobs, hopefully they're creating them in a safe way that doesn't exploit their workers. I don't have a lot of hope about that, but it is what it is. But still, people are going back to work, but there's a lot of people that aren't working that need your help. So figure out where you can go to donate to a food bank. Donate if you have means, right? Help who you can. This is a time where we kind of all need to lean on each other and be each other's support system, right? That's what the mask is. Masks don't stop you from getting coronavirus. Very few masks, right? None of the cloth masks do. But what they are is a sign of respect to your fellow man. What they say is, I don't know that I don't have it, but if I do have it, I want to make sure you don't have it while I'm out here doing this thing that I need to do. Even if that thing that I need to do is get out to a bar and grab a drink, I respect you, human being, and I will do everything I can to mitigate the risk that you decided to take and I decided to take by going to this Kroger or going to this bar or going to this DMV or wherever you're going. Mitigate the risk, show respect to your fellow man, blah blah blah. Right? Voting is, we're less than 90 days to the election. We're not a political podcast, right? It
90 days.
was
Wow.
it, we had a lot on our plate. We had a lot to talk about that wasn't politics, but as you can see right now, they are kind of permeating every facet of our lives, and it is important. Please go educate yourselves. We're not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm lying. I really think you should vote for a Democrat. But if vote your heart, but vote right. If your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be doing everything they could to take your vote from you, right? So let's kill that noise. Let's get out to the polls. Let's get out. Let's put the right people in office that will hopefully improve our lives. We don't know, of course, but give us a better shot at beating this thing. That being said, every day you wake up, and it's getting realer by the day. Every day you wake up, that dude, Cheeto Caesar, Trumpito, is less and less likely to be your president. Every single day you wake up, you closer to the day where we can be like, get your hat, your coat, and leave. We gonna throw him out the White House like Uncle Phil used to throw out Jazzy Jeff. We gonna throw him out. He's going, oh my God, nobody's ever been treated as poorly as I am. He's not leaving, right? We're going to have to actually escort him physically out of the White House. He's going to be the first dude that got to get a spanking on the way out of the White House. Somebody's going to have to send a black mama in the White House to get Trump out of there. But it is what it is. Y'all be great. Have a blessed week.
If Joe Biden doesn't put his foot in his mouth, but all right.
He gonna put his foot in his mouth. He gonna put his foot in his mouth. Y'all, first of all, he has a stutter. He has a stutter. Sometimes he says stuff, and the stutter we should not be holding against people in the year of our Lord 2020. But he has verbal gaffes. He says stuff. We act like we appreciate people that are like that shoot from the hip. He shoots from the hip, and sometimes you miss, right? And we're I think it's the time of like a polished politician, which he is. By the way, he is a polished politician, and we shouldn't act like he isn't. He's a politician, and he has politician a mindset. He's not like what the girl name? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. I only call her AOC. I haven't said her first name in a long time, but he's not her. right? So he still has talking points. He still has things that are on his agenda, but he's infinitely more qualified to be the president than this dude is. Since we are living in a two-party system that has kept our choice to be binary, this is who we got. It's him or it's another 4 years like the last 4 years. And if you want that, I can't knock you, but I think you're dumb and I think you hate black people, right? So if you, that's just what it is. It's okay, right? Fight me.
Dominique doesn't represent the views of the Black Techies or its affiliates. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't. I only speak for myself. Even if these other two cats that's on here, if they think that this dude is better than Joe Biden for the country, then they hate black people too.
Hey, fam, don't talk to me.
He they boss, right? They gotta be nice. They gotta be nice to him.
What I will say before we go is that if you don't want a binary political system, let Joe Jorgensen on the debate stage and at least allow the libertarians to have some kind of say.
Not this year, boss. Not this year, boss. Every year,
or at least the next 4 years, like after this year. Like if you want change, you gotta like the what do they call it? The Council on Presidential Debates. Who are there? Let more people in on the stage so we have more ideas and more choices. Isn't that how capitalism works, right? You can't do anything without choice.
Just as long as you guys ain't letting Ye on the stage, y'all fine.
Ranked choice voting.
Oh yeah, ranked choice voting. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Then we're done with the two-party system, right? It allows for people to say, listen, I will not vote for a Democrat, but I will vote for this other dude. And then if enough people say that, then eventually either the Democrat Party is going to get their stuff together, or we have a real shot at a third-party candidate winning. Even though I don't know that a libertarian is the way their party's set up right now, it doesn't seem like they really want to run, right? Or really want to win. You can't just pop your head up every 4 years and be like, who would have been on us, right? Run mayoral candidates, run gubernatorial candidates, run Senate, like there's weak Senate race. There's people that go unopposed. If I was the head of the Libertarian Party, which I don't know, maybe as a libertarian you're not allowed to have a head. I don't know how it works.
They do.
Are they the Borg?
But
yeah,
you said are they the Borg?
Yeah. So if the libertarians, because every race across the country that goes unopposed makes me believe that the libertarians don't really want to crack at this, right? Because every single unopposed race, you need to find a candidate and get them in.
There is one running in Arkansas, black guy actually running against Tom Cotton. Vote for the black guy. I don't care. Vote for the black guy. Do it. If you live in Arkansas, vote for him. Don't vote for Tom Cotton. Please don't vote for Tom Cotton.
Cotton is the word. His last name is Cotton. That's all you need to know. Okay? Google him and Google the things he said over the last 2 months. And then see if you can bring your heart to vote for him. And if you do still vote for him, understand that was your right to do. But I believe that you are stupid and that you hate black people. With that being said, I gotta go. I love everybody.
On that note, hail Wakanda.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda. Good night,
All right,
everybody.
All right, good sirs. See you all.